Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan for you. Today I have another TV episode from the old Goosebumps 90s TV show to review for you. I have a lot of recording to do tonight for this and for my other channel called Strange Michael, where I'm doing horror movie reviews and whatnot. I also have kind of a dry throat tonight. I don't know what's going on. It's very cold outside for whatever reason. It's almost freaking summertime and it's cold. I don't know. Anyway, tonight's episode review, of course, the title shows that, is Don't Go to Sleep, and I have it in this double disc box set thing. Here's the book. I actually haven't put it on my bookshelf yet with the other ones that I have read. Don't Go to Sleep. I just read this and reviewed it the other day, and it was alright. It wasn't great. It wasn't fantastic. It was kind of like this cool kind of mixture between Groundhog Day, the Bill Murray movie. Everybody knows about Groundhog Day for the most part. I have a lot of young viewers on here. Shut up. I'm trying to let them know. It's kind of a mixture of that and a Twilight Zone type of theme, but it felt a lot like Tales from the Dark Side, if you like that kind of thing. Don't Go to Sleep is another great example of a Tales from the Dark Side type of Goosebumps feeling thing. Even though Tales from the Dark Side came out in the 80s, it was an anthology TV show. Every single episode was a standalone, short story type of tale. And I loved that show. I grew up on it just like I grew up on Goosebumps. If you love one, I think you'll love the other. Especially because a lot of Tales from the Dark Side feels so much like a Goosebumps type thing. More adult because there is cursing and blood and whatnot. But there are some horrible episodes in that show too. Just to give you a heads up in case you decide to check it out. But Goosebumps has the same problem, right? And Don't Go to Sleep is a great example of something that a lot of people consider to be horrific from that show. A lot of people, I even saw in my last video, actually, well, I think it was the review for Don't Go to Sleep's book. I think a lot of people even said that My Hairiest Adventure, which I would say is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, Goosebumps episode, potentially. I haven't watched all of them yet, but it's possible it's the worst one. This one is the one that's usually considered to be the worst. It's one of the ones JonTron did in his video, as well as My Hairiest Adventure, saying years ago when he did his awesome little JonTron Goosebumps two-part videos that this was horrific. I didn't actually mind this one all that much. It's nowhere as interesting or funny or humorous as the book, but I don't hate it. Does that make sense? Has the same general premise, just a relocation of certain things and a lot of completely different events throughout the story, and it tries to tie in this message to the book or to the episode to try to make you feel something if you're a kid. And it is what it is. It feels like your typical 90s fare, but I actually like this more than I like the My Hairiest Adventure episode. I think the My Hairiest Adventure episode is very weak. It's a very big mess, sloppy, horrific. The main kid actor playing Larry is just horrible. I mean, absolutely awful. And this story, this episode, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's actually relatively okay as an adaptation. I would prefer to have the book story. If I had to read the book over the episode, I'd read the book, and I'd choose the book. It's better, easily. It's R.L. Stine. It feels like R.L. Stine telling the story. Now, the TV show has the feel of the Goosebumps TV show. It's just not as good as a lot of the episodes like Haunted Mask and Welcome to Dead House, Night of the Living Dummy 3, or Brad a Living Dummy, or anything like that. It's just not as good as most of Goosebumps. But it's not the worst. I still think My Hairiest Adventure at this current point in my channel, I think that might be the worst episode at this current time in my life. Anyway, this episode is Season 3, Episode 4. It's amazing to me how Season 3 of all seasons, very close to the end of Goosebumps. Season 4 was how long this show lasted, 4 seasons. And the fact that this would be an episode that people would pick to adapt is just weird to me. Why would you choose this one? This one book of all things. It didn't turn out well. I don't think it was a good idea to turn this into a book or an episode at all, for that matter. It's kind of not that engaging as a book as it is. It's just kind of humorous. That's what got me through the book, was the humor and the kind of silly nature of the whole story. And they changed almost all of the book for this episode after the beginning setup for the story. This episode premiered on September 20th, 1997. That's pretty wild, too. It's alright. I don't mind it. Essentially, for anybody who hasn't known the story to Don't Go to Sleep, if you didn't see my book review for it, it doesn't really matter because this is kind of different a little bit. Instead of a main character kid who kind of just has a two mean brother and sister, older sibling kids, he has a single mom. He wants to move into a bigger room. It's not really focused too much in here about how his room is really messy in the book, and he has a lot of stuff, and it's almost too much stuff. He doesn't give away enough and whatnot. So he wants a bigger room for that reason. He usually wants the guest room in the book. In the episode, he wants to go upstairs in the attic and sleep up there and move his whole room and everything up to the attic, which is kind of a cool idea. I really like the set design for that. It reminds me of the one for the Let's Get Invisible episode, adaptation of that book, too. It reminds me a lot of that same attic. And it's kind of a cool looking attic for that matter. A little spooky, but it's kind of cool. Now when he goes up there, of course, very much like in the book itself, he goes in this room, he falls asleep in that room, and he kind of has this potential nightmare. We don't really know if it's a dream, a nightmare, or something else worse. And it gets really wild. There's basically just every time that the main character wakes up, Matt is his name, every time Matt wakes up in a new area, or wakes up in general, not even really wakes up, it's kind of different from the book actually. It doesn't, in the book he wakes up all the time. He has to fall asleep and wake up, and he'll end up in different circumstances, right? In this, he just kind of goes from area to area to area to area to event to event to event. That's kind of the whole story for the episode as an adaptation. It's not that far off from what the book was doing, but the scenarios themselves that Matt goes through are completely different. For example, in the book there's some different things he goes through. In here he goes through things like being a hockey player, being a doctor, getting married, you know, things like that. Things that only adults should worry about. Careers, life choices, stuff like that. Whereas a kid should be a kid and want to just take advantage of the time that you are a kid, because you never go back to that time. It's never like that again in your life. You're going to experience people in your family dying, you know, your parents going away or passing away for that matter, brothers and sisters passing away. You're going to get old at some point. So this episode is trying to play up this message that the book didn't really have about enjoying your time as a kid. And that's fine to me. It feels like a very 1990s type of message in a kid's programming type thing, and I'm cool with that. I actually think it works for what it is. I know a lot of people are harsh about this, including JonTron. As much as I love him, a lot of people really trash this episode unfairly, in my opinion. Very much like they trash Ghost Beach all the time, the book and the episode, and I love both of those. This is not close to being the quality of those two, in my opinion, even though Ghost Beach is not like the highest quality Goosebumps stuff, TV episode or book-wise. Book is better, easily, but Don't Go to Sleep is not that bad. I don't know why people hate it so much. I mean, I get it. I get people want something scary, but the book was not scary. The book was just kind of an adventure amongst many scenarios and dreamscapes and whatnot. And that was cool. It was a cool book. I prefer the book for sure, like I said. But Don't Go to Sleep is an okay episode. I don't hate it. I certainly don't love it by any means. But if I was doing a Goosebumps marathon, I would not skip over this episode. Now, I would probably... I laughed at My Hairiest Adventure. My Hairiest Adventure is so goofy and sloppily made. It's easily a so bad it's good type of situation, like Sharknado. So you can enjoy that for how bad it is. But if I was watching a straight up wanting to have a good time Goosebumps marathon, I would not skip Don't Go to Sleep. I think it's okay for what it is. It was fine. It was kind of fun. The two guys in the black suits that are chasing after Matt throughout the different scenarios he goes through, they're a little much. They're a little much. They're from the book, of course. In the book, they're kind of adding this tension, sort of, kind of, not really too effectively, but kind of, to the story to make Matt have to hurry up and do stuff as fast as he possibly can, or he's on the run a little bit from these guys. We don't know who they are. And it's better done in the book with those characters. In the episode, they're just really over the top, like Disney over the top. You know, like, I don't really know how to explain it until you've seen the JonTron videos, which I highly recommend because he covers My Hairiest Adventure, Ghost Beach, and Don't Go to Sleep as some of the worst Goosebumps stuff ever made. And he's hilarious. JonTron's always been funny, especially in his older videos. So, you know, it's a big old advertisement for me for JonTron. I love his stuff. But anyway, he covers that in a very good way. So you could do one of two things. You could watch JonTron's hilarious, absolutely hilarious commentary about this episode, or you could just watch the episode itself and have a relatively decent time. If you happen to, for whatever reason, consider Don't Go to Sleep one of the best Goosebumps books, you're going to probably hate the episode. It's not anywhere close to being loyal to that source material at all. I don't mind it. I think it's okay as an adaptation. Adaptation is the key word here. That's what this is. I can mostly accept it. I think if this came out now, people would not accept it either. Even if they were, you know, back in those days, in the 90s, when this came out in 1997, people didn't accept it back then either. It was considered pretty horrific and bad, and again, I consider My Hairiest Adventure way worse than this. Way, way worse. Like, that's like an insult from the Goosebumps Canadian TV show. Don't Go to Sleep is just fine. It's just, it is what it is. It's not bad, in my opinion. I think it's just fine. It's probably the biggest highlight word here. If I had to rate Don't Go to Sleep, the book or the episode, on a 5-star basis, Well, not so much the book, but just the episode. I picked up the book and I messed up my sentence, like I always do. If I had to rate the episode on a 5-star basis, I'd probably give it about a fairly decent rating of a 3 out of 5 stars. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It is what it is. I can see people hating it. I can see people loving it. I think the hate is a little bit misguided, though. It's kind of like with the Goosebumps movies. A lot of people aren't looking at the quality of the films. They're looking at what they wanted the movies to be, you know? And that's not really fair in a lot of ways. In some aspects it is, but in a lot of ways it's not, in my opinion, personally. That's not an attack on anybody, it's just me saying that. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Don't Go to Sleep, the TV episode adaptation from the 90s Goosebumps show of the book? Do you like the book better? Do you like the episode better? I'd love to hear everything you have to say about it, because it's a very interesting episode to talk about. Have you seen the JonTron videos about all of these 3 episodes I talked about? Ghost Beach, My Harriest Adventure, Don't Go to Sleep. They're all great. They're all fun in their own way. Not so much My Harriest Adventure, but that's a bad one. I uploaded my review for that just before this video in case you want to check that out and have something fun to talk about or hear me ramble nonsensically at 4 o'clock in the morning about how bad a Goosebumps episode was. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below. Thank you for watching. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.